Students are not abandoning Google for AI search. Google search is AI search.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters. Fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. So you told your cabinet AI search wasn't urgent yet, that the data didn't justify a budget shift. In May, Google made AI search the default search experience for 1 billion people. If your content was built for someone scrolling 10 blue links, it wasn't built for what just happened. And today we're breaking this big announcement down with Katie Campbell, the newly named CEO of VisionPoint Marketing. Katie brings 15 years of integrated marketing experience and nearly a decade specializing in higher ed. She served as VisionPoint's COO, led across every division of the agency, and was the lead strategist on dozens of its biggest brand and enrollment engagements nationwide. Katie, welcome to the Pulse.
Oh, Mallory, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, especially talking about a topic like this that feels so pressing for our industry specifically.
I can't agree more. But before we get into Google, congratulations are in order, Miss CEO. So hello, what a welcome gift, right? You step into the CEO role, Google rewrites the entire search experience. Like, what can go wrong now?
It's really never boring, right? That's why we work like we do, right? Because it's never boring. It always stays interesting.
So tell us, like, what have your first, 30-ish days been like in the new seat? I mean, it's not a new team, but quite an elevation.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I appreciate it really genuinely. And yes, no, amazing to have a team I know, a business I know, our clients that I've gotten to know over the last 8 or 9 years I've been with the agency. But it hits different, that it instantly becomes, you want to make sure on a whole new level we are doing right by our partners, right by your team. The responsibility sharpens everything. And so when things like this happen, like with Google, you're like, oh, we have to be on top of that. We need to be ahead of that, because I want VisionPoint to continue to be at the front lines of what's happening in higher ed, because I think that's what our clients deserve.
Well, and as CEO, it's your job to set that priority for the rest of the team,
exactly.
Right? Is that a shift from the COO seat? I mean, you're executive either way.
No, but a little bit, right? From that COO seat, I was definitely thinking more around the delivery. Okay, so then what does that mean for how we will service this versus from this seat? It's not only getting our team up to speed onto what's happening. It's like, how do we get our clients ready to talk about this? Or not even clients of ours, just, people we know across the industry thinking in this way so that they're not falling behind either.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to, before we get into the topic, what were you most excited to take on as a CEO? And did you have any big surprises in these first few weeks?
So I'll say most excited to take on was the beauty of being here for the last few years is that I've been able to have my hands in a couple of things that we've been building. But one of the things we were able to roll out recently, speaking of AI, is an AI enablement tool for our teams to use. So just to allow them more mental space to do the strategic work and less the day-to-day admin. And we've been working on that for about 6-7 months. So we brought that to life our last month in May, and really excited to see that come to fruition. And then most surprising, not totally surprising, because the industry we work in has always been very partnership minded, and everyone knows we're playing in a competitive space, but you want to do it in a way that's well representing of you and your company. And I have just had so much openness from our partners, our competitors, even just wanting to, work hand in hand, play nice in the sandbox together. And that's just been great. So yeah, I'll take that.
That's awesome. Well, congrats, Katie. And let's dive into it. So listeners, imagine this. A high school junior types a question into Google tonight. She gets an AI generated answer that contains 3 schools, a tuition range, and a sentence about outcomes. She never clicks a link. She never sees your homepage. That used to be this future scenario that we could plan around, but In May, Google made it the default experience. They announced the biggest change to the search box in over 25 years. The box takes conversational queries, images, files, even Chrome tabs. AI mode is no longer an experiment. It is the default, and it's powered by Gemini 3.5 Flash, which is live globally. Google's own numbers really tell the story. AI mode hit 1 billion monthly users in its first year. Queries are more than doubling every quarter. And last quarter, total Google search volume hit an all-time high. Students are not abandoning Google for AI search. Google search is AI search. And the second shoe is in the air. Information agents launch this summer. Background AI that's going to monitor the web 24/7 on a user's stated criteria. So this generative UI lets Google build custom dashboards inside search for things like planning a wedding or like applying to college, right? So I've been saying, y'all, for 3 years that the .edu homepage is going to eventually become an AI search bar. And I think we're going to get into that prediction in a little bit. But for higher ed, the discovery layer has now compressed. 78% of education-related searches now return to AI overview. Everspring Research recently found AI overviews drove a 70 to 90% decline in organic clicks on top ranking university pages, and the top 10 organic rankers went from earning 76% of AI overview citations in mid-2025 to roughly 38% by early 2026 ranking. Katie, your LinkedIn post recently called this out before most people in our space had even finished reading the announcements. So let's start there. Like, what's going on?
No, it's so interesting because I think for years we've been hearing every conference we've all gone to, every session that is the most well attended is AI, AI, AI. Like we all know it is what we are thinking about and it's keeping us up at night. But then you would look at research studies and it would say, maybe 10 to 15% of prospective students are using AI search tools, like truly using ChatGPT to find information about their colleges. So I think a lot of institutions just had the permission to say, we'll get to it. Onto the, we'll get there. But that just stopped being true. To your point, Google search didn't lose students to AI search. It's now won. They became AI search. So the behavior shift we've all been waiting for happened overnight. And the cabinet conversation we should really be having is not, should we prioritize this? It's how fast can we move? Because we're behind.
Have you already had some version of a conversation like this with one of your clients?
Yeah, we've had a couple of clients that we've just even over the years seeing this coming. We would be talking to them even about like paid ads coming to these AI search engines. But now that it is overwhelmingly the organic game, we were originally positioning ourselves as okay, we want to make sure that we are serving both organic SEO, traditional SEO and AI SEO. And that is now one. So we've started to have these conversations, and it takes some education because it is an overnight change to how not only us as consumers, but definitely our students are going to find us.
Yeah. So how should marketing leaders be thinking about visibility now that this migration event doesn't really exist? Like migrating from a ChatGPT or Perplexity over to the institution's website or whatever. So how do we stay visible to the prospective student?
Yes, no, it's a great question. So it's visibility now. It's almost like visibility now no longer means being the top ranked page. It means being the best answer. And to be the best answer, you need to be structuring your content to match the questions these students or their agents, to your point, these AI agents they're going to create are now crawling the web for. And to do that, you have to do it constantly. It is not a one-time investment. It is a constant build of your brand. Accuracy is more important than ever. But even to your note about the website before, the website used to be this end all be all, this is the central hub destination that students would learn about our institution. And it really is no longer that. It is now the source of truth that feeds every other surface, AI agents, AI queries, third-party platforms. That's what the website now becomes. And I think it really changes not only how visible we are, but where are we visible conversations.
Yeah. So let's think about the institutions that you're working with at Vision Point. Some are probably well positioned to win in this new search environment. Like what are the things that they're doing correctly that others can learn from?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was able to, I've been staying really close to our SEO team over these last few weeks, as you can imagine, with everything going on. And a great colleague of mine, Nicole, she always boils it down to a couple of things. For the universities that can win, what do you have to do to win in this? I come from a pro sports background, and so I think in that like W mindset. How do we get the W here? And so she always talks about there's a couple things to do consistently, and that's like an underline consistently. One, they are treating it as an ongoing priority. It's not the one-time project. Let's see, they've started already building for AI retrieval. So they're structuring content to answer real prompts. They are targeting questions students actually ask, and they're understanding, they have done the AI audits. They have understood how AI represents their institution already. So they know where their gap is. I'd say the one other build is they are focused on program pages. Program pages are everything. They serve as the channel that the AI is pulling from when forming a picture of your offerings. So the schools that have invested there and built supporting content, those are the ones that will show up, versus I think the ones that are going to struggle are really kind of still fighting with that question of how students find us. When it's not owned and it's not funded and it's not mission critical, I think that's where the strategy gap becomes clear.
So the schools then that are maybe going to struggle, do you diagnose that as a content problem, a governance problem, or a leadership problem?
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay. I would say, I think it starts as a leadership problem and then translates into a content problem. It's almost like it's a leadership problem with a content side effect. Maybe that's the way to think about it, right? Like because if leadership doesn't understand everything we're talking about and how much this should be prioritized, how critical this is in their recruitment and their marketing strategy, then the content won't be developed. It won't be funded. It won't be mindful as to and thought about in the way that we need it to actually show up in these search results. Whereas we used to fight for like page one rankings. Now it is really fighting for making sure that these AI agents or AI queries are pulling from our answers.
So you've brought up SEO and GEO and AIEO. I feel like I'm like singing like Old MacDonald had a farm sometimes.
Exactly.
But in your post, you ended with the question, right? Is your content AI SEO ready? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so it's so true. Oh my gosh. Also, as the mom of a 4-month-old, the Old MacDonald thing hits so hard, Mallory, that I'm like, it's going to keep me up at night. So no, it's a great question. So when we're talking AI SEO ready, there's a few categories that means you are thinking through and you are setting yourselves up to succeed in. One is really traditional SEO health. Is your website built that Google and these search platforms are going to value the information that's coming from it? It is honest. It is true. It matches the content that they can find on social platforms and so forth. So do you have your true baseline SEO foundation set? That plus, then there's the GEO of it all, generative engine optimization. So are we structuring our content so AI systems can actually retrieve and surface it? Can they crawl for that to pull up in these generative answers? And then there's what we call almost the like LLM influence of it all. Are we actively feeding these large language models so that when a student does ask about schools like ours, we're in that answer? So I think that's when all three of those things work together, your content is AI SEO ready.
Cool. So I'll just share this little tidbit for listeners and for you. I'm on the AMA program committee, and I am one of the two responsible for reading all of the like MarTech and AI proposal submissions. 80% of them this year have been on GEO and AEO and and this was all like submitted before Google made this announcement and before everything changed. And it's influencing some of my decisions on which proposals to select, because if they weren't already like kind of positioning themselves as a future forward proposal. I'm like, oh man, the game completely changed during the like submission process. Isn't that wild?
Yes, like, is it even relevant anymore? It's so true. I can only, oh my gosh, so that old McDonald's song must really be stuck in your head.
I literally can't get it out. And I think about it every time. It's wild. All right. But back to our topic. So a lot of the headlines coming out of, Google's announcement have been very focused on the redesign of the search box. But I think that the agent piece is actually maybe the more interesting and maybe the part that should keep us up at night, because if Google's rolling out information agents this summer, that high school junior can brain dump her criteria once. The agent just goes off to scan the institutions against whatever she fed it for the next 6, 12, 18 months. Like, she never has to sit back down for another search session. And we've been talking about visibility, but boy, that is going to have an impact on institutional visibility when like the audience isn't even searching anymore. I don't know. What do you think, Katie?
The way that my brain could even get itself around really the impact of this was almost to think about it in a non-higher ed or non-higher ed context. So let's think I'm a big Beyonce fan, and I want to know when Beyonce goes on tour next. So I'm going to set up an agent that is going to constantly crawl the internet, not just her website, not a Google alert, not go search for Beyonce tour. This agent is going to be constantly searching Reddit threads, YouTube, her official sites, everything, to now alert me she's on tour, go get ready to buy your tickets. So that is what, to your point about that high school junior experience, it will be so active for the agent, yet so almost so one set and forget for the student, which is exactly the opposite of how we've been manufacturing our SEO historically. So to your point, when a student is searching, you can't optimize for the search session. You can't optimize for the keyword anymore. You more so need to make sure you are so thoroughly and accurately represented across the web, not your website, across the entire web. And that when an agent is doing the matching on that high school junior's behalf, your institution surfaces as a fit. So your content has to be findable, it has to be trustworthy, consistent. And I think it has to be, when I say consistent, not just consistent in multiple places, but to think that agent is searching for 6, 12, 18 months, don't you want to give it more content to potentially match you with that student? So we need to be producing updated content, blog articles, whatever it is, to give that agent something new to find to match you with that prospective student. So it's a long game, but it is really, to your point, I think this is the next level build on what Google rolled out beyond just the search bar.
Yeah. So I mentioned this hot take a little while ago, but like I am on the record on this podcast for many years now, having said like, I just believe the .edu homepage is going to turn into an AI search bar on everything the institution publishes. And then that will be like the navigation, the program finder, the FAQ, like it's all going to get replaced by this single input field that answers questions across the entire body of your content. And I really feel like Google is like essentially building the thing that I've been kind of predicting will become the .edu website. It's just on their domain and right, not yours. So push back on me or build on my prediction. Like, where do you think the institutional website lives in 3 years?
Okay, so I'll build, and I think you should have put money on it, honestly, because I think you're right. It's like,
go to Vegas.
Use your betting from Saratoga over here. Yeah. But it's really this, you're right. It's living on their domain, not yours yet, right? Because I think we have had higher ed institutions really come to accept Google is the homepage, right? Your website's not the homepage. It's Google is your entrance point. But now it is not just Google is the homepage. It is this AI agent that is your access, your portal to get to your website that then will search across the board. And so to build on what you're saying, I think websites that were maybe more historically built with static pages and keyword stuffed copy and call it minimal structure, they're going to find that the traffic models that have worked for them historically don't hold, because I think the metric and the KPI stops becoming, did we get a website? Did we get a page visit? And it's actually more so, did they get the answer they were looking for? Because they most likely won't ever even touch our website. So it's how do you really make that your source code for all of these agents and these search bars to find versus saying, and this experience of the website is really going to be where people spend time, because it's not.
I love that. The KPI has changed. And yes, shouldn't it have always...
It's a different ballgame.
It is, but shouldn't it have always been about answering the student question?
Oh, okay. Now philosophically, yes, right. It was this idea of Higher.edu websites had so many different audiences, from alums to faculty, current students, prospects, everyone. And so with that came really complicated architectures where I'm sure you and I have both been on a million EDU websites that are thousands and thousands of pages deep. And what you'll find is that what an AI agent will start to force those colleges to do is say, no, you're not answering this query, so thus you don't come up in the top 3 colleges that match that high school junior's query. So you might be time to really think about the student experience.
All right, so let's get practical. The CMO who's listening right now, right? They watched the announcement, they read your LinkedIn post, they're listening to this podcast, they're nodding, right? So they're on board. What is the single highest leverage decision that they can make this week?
So I would say best decision to make this week is to take that audit step. I'm a believer, knowledge is power, right? Let's understand where our current situation, what are we up against to really compete on this level? And there are tools that do this. We partner with clients to do this frequently, where it's like, how are you coming up right now for certain queries? Even with certain audiences, we'll have, campuses who are really focused on recruiting a military audience. Yet when we do like military-based queries in an AI search, that's actually where they come in the lowest. Okay, so now we know that's where we need to prioritize our investments, because we've mentioned a couple times, this is a long game. You're not going to be able to do it all in a 1-week decision. So I would say first things first, do that audit, get your baseline, and now let's build a strategy around it.
We have to recognize that we are in the very last month of the fiscal year for most institutions. So with this timing, there's a good chance that budgets are already locked for the next fiscal. Plans, right, have been made certainly for the back half of this calendar year. So again, like with that CMO hat on, is there something I should stop doing or set aside because I need to prioritize this instead?
That's a great question. What I would think about is if your budget is set already, because to your point, here we are, it is coming closer to June 30th. What I would think about is actually more so than the allocation of that budget. Don't get me wrong, I am a huge believer in the power of paid efforts. I think paid efforts we know that's where we need to be to intersect students' conversations, but we have continued to see the real kind of impact that search has, organic search as we've historically called it, but search has had on a student's decision and on their ability to make a connection with an institution or with a campus before visiting or really getting to experience it. So what I would think about is more so a reallocation. When you are looking at your media, there's paid media, but then there's also owned media. What do you own? And your website and your blogs and your content are absolutely fall in that owned media category. That may be the reallocation to make. Is there something in paid media, call it a top of funnel tactic, that supports your brand work, that actually a better support of building your brand this year would be to prioritize getting your content AI SEO ready?
So as we wrap this up, imagine you're sitting across from one of your clients' presidents or the cabinet, and and you are giving them some advice. What advice are you giving them?
Oh, so I think giving a cabinet or a college president advice here, I would almost frame it in the sense of a question, which is, if a student never visits our website, would they still choose us? And that's more so because does the content on our website or the content that lives about us really support and illustrate the experience of being a student at this school in a way that's compelling to make them want to choose us? And to your thesis earlier, I don't think it's going to be them visiting the actual website to do that anymore. So maybe thinking in that way, are you optimizing for visits or are you optimizing for outcomes? And let's focus that optimization on outcomes. And that may mean your website information is actually appearing in many other places than it has been. And I think that's where we know this is heading. So let's really make sure we are considering the student's journey, not prescripting how we think a student is going to find us. Let's go where they actually are.
Amazing. Well, folks, if you want to connect with Katie, I am going to link to the LinkedIn post that inspired this conversation in our show notes, so you can click that and get connected with her right on LinkedIn. And hey, we are in June. We are just weeks away from Element 451's Engage Summit. And if you can't make it in person this year, exciting news, y'all. They just announced that there is another digital summit pass available for free. If you go to engage.element451.com, you will be able to get all the good information on that digital summit pass. You can get signed up. There's so many incredible speakers this year. It's really hurting my heart that I'm not going to be in Charlotte with the crew, but it is such a great event every year. So even if you can't be there too, jump on that digital pass. Katie, it was so great to have you on today. Thank you again, Miss CEO. I know you're so busy, but you made time for us, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So great to see you, to talk about this topic. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. All right, folks, we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.